My sweet girl, I'm just thrilled you're loving that beautiful place I helped you get. Grandpa Richard lifted his champagne glass across the restaurant table, grinning like we were celebrating something wonderful. I stopped breathing. My name is Emma Carter, daughter of Marcus Carter, and in that exact second, my entire world tilted sideways. Mom's hand started shaking so badly her tea nearly spilled. My sister Jen's eyes went wide, her phone forgotten in her lap. Dad's knife clattered against his plate, the sound echoing in my ears like a gunshot. I put my glass down carefully, my throat tight. I live in a basement, I whispered. Then I said it again, stronger this time. I never received any place. I've never had my own apartment. The silence was deafening. Grandpa Richard looked confused, his smile fading. What on earth are you saying, sweetheart? I looked around at every single face, the faces that had spent years telling me to be grateful, to work harder, to stop complaining. And that's when it hit me like ice water, the help they kept mentioning, the support they bragged about giving me, none of it ever reached me. Not once. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. Because what unfolded next shattered everything I believed about the people I called family. I didn't start out in that horrible basement. After I graduated, I asked for help. Just once. One time. I wasn't asking for money, just guidance, maybe a connection, something to get me started in the real world. Dad laughed in my face and said maybe I should try working at a fast food place first, learn what real work feels like. What I found out later, much later, was that Grandpa Richard had been told something completely different. He was told I wanted to make it on my own, that I refused help, that I was doing just fine, living my independent life. I wasn't fine. Not even close. I moved into a basement apartment because it was literally all I could afford on what I was making. The rent had to be paid in actual cash, handed over in a wrinkled envelope. The walls had this awful yellow tint from decades of cigarette smoke. There was this massive boiler just inches from where I slept, making these terrifying rattling sounds all night long like it might just explode and end everything. I ate my meals sitting on the floor more times than I can count, telling myself over and over that this was just temporary, that struggling builds character, that maybe I somehow deserved this difficult phase of my life. Every family dinner felt like a performance. Jen would go on and on about her trips to Europe and her apartment renovations. Mom and Dad would lecture about hard work and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and how entitled young people are these days. And I just smiled. Nodded. Swallowed every word I wanted to scream. They kept telling me I was so strong, so independent, that I didn't need anyone's help, that asking for support was a sign of weakness. Meanwhile, I was working 2 jobs, cleaning office buildings until 3 in the morning, taking freelance work that paid pennies, and every single time I felt like I might break into a million pieces, I remembered what Dad always said, nobody owes you a damn thing. So I stopped expecting anything from anyone. You know what hurts the most? It's not even the struggling. It's that everyone believed I deserved it. They believed I chose this life. They believed I'd already been given help and wasted it. They believed I was ungrateful and entitled. And God help me, I believed them too. For so long, I believed them. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that my silence made it incredibly easy for someone to rewrite my entire story without me even knowing it. How would you have reacted if you were sitting at that table when the truth came out? Comment, shocked, if this would have completely blindsided you. And stay with me because what happened next changed absolutely everything. Living like that does something to your soul. It doesn't shatter you all at once in some dramatic moment. No, it wears you down so slowly, so quietly, day after miserable day, until you don't even notice how tiny your world has become. Every morning started before the sun even thought about rising. I'd wake up to that boiler banging and clanging right next to my head, throw on clothes that still reeked of industrial cleaning chemicals, and sneak out through the side door so I wouldn't run into my landlord who always had something to complain about. One job during the day, another job at night. When friends asked why I looked so exhausted all the time, I'd force out a laugh. Oh, you know me, just keeping busy. Haha, always something going on. Busy surviving sounded too pathetic, too desperate to say out loud. I kept all my bills stuffed in my backpack because I didn't even have a proper desk. Rent, electric, bus passes, everything. Cash payments, always cash, because my landlord didn't trust banks, and honestly, after learning how quickly money could vanish when the wrong person got their hands on it, neither did I. The family group chat never stopped buzzing. Photos from fancy restaurants I wasn't invited to. Inside jokes I'd lost track of months ago. Jen complaining about how stressful it was planning her next vacation. Mom and Dad posting long paragraphs about personal responsibility and discipline and how some people just expect life to hand them everything. I never responded. Silence felt safer than trying to defend a life nobody cared enough to actually see. Every few weeks, Grandpa Richard would call. Sweet as always. "How's my Emma doing?" he'd ask. "I'm okay," I'd say. Every single time. "I'm okay." Those two words carried the weight of the world. They meant I'm not asking for help. They meant I'm not accusing anyone. They meant I'm still playing the role you assigned me. Late at night, after finishing my second shift, muscles aching, eyes burning, I'd sit on the edge of that sad little bed and open a folder on my laptop. It was labeled Dreams, and it was full of design sketches, layouts, creative ideas I used to think could actually become my future. I never showed them to anyone anymore. Dad had looked at them once, years ago, and said, "That's real cute, Emma, but when are you planning to get serious about your life?" So I closed that door myself before anyone else could slam it in my face. I kept telling myself this was temporary, that if I just worked harder, stayed quieter, proved I didn't need anyone's help, eventually things would get better. That respect came after you'd suffered enough. But something inside me was dying. Not tired like needing sleep. Tired like being invisible, like slowly disappearing while everyone watched and nobody cared. And without even realizing it, I was paying the price for everyone else's comfort with my own complete silence. If you were in my shoes back then, what would you have done? Comment 1 if you would have stayed quiet just to keep the family peace. Comment 2 if you would have spoken up, even if it meant burning every bridge. I need to know I'm not crazy for what I did next. I wasn't planning on saying anything at that brunch. I swear I wasn't. I showed up because it was Grandpa Richard's birthday. Because I'd gotten so good at smiling through discomfort it was like breathing. Because keeping the peace always felt easier than ripping open old wounds that never really healed. I sat there listening, nodding along, letting the conversation wash over me like white noise the way I always did. Then Grandpa Richard raised his glass, his eyes landing on me with so much warmth. "My sweet girl," he said, beaming. "I'm just thrilled you're loving that beautiful place I helped you get." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. Wrong, heavy, sharp, cutting. For a split second, I thought maybe I'd heard him wrong. I looked around the table desperately. Mom's mouth fell open. Jen completely froze, her phone still in midair. Dad dropped his fork and it clattered so loud against his plate. My chest felt like it was caving in. "I live in a basement," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Grandpa Richard blinked. "What did you say?" "I never got any apartment." This time I said it louder, steadier, each word deliberate. The silence that crashed down on that table felt absolutely violent. Grandpa Richard pushed his chair back, confusion morphing into something like panic. "That's impossible, Emma. That can't be right. I wired the down payment to your father 4 years ago, right after your graduation. He said he'd surprised you with it, that you were all settled." I turned my head slowly toward Dad, and I watched his face drain of color. Mom's voice came out shaking. "You told me she had that adorable little place downtown, Marcus. You showed me pictures. Dad wouldn't look at me. He started stammering something about timing, about meaning to help me later, about investments and opportunities. No, I said, cutting through his excuses like a knife. You meant to keep it. You meant to keep it all along. The truth cracked that room wide open like an earthquake. Grandpa Richard's face went completely white. His hands gripped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles turned pale. You told me she didn't want help, he said, his voice barely audible. You said she wanted to be independent, that she was too proud to accept anything. I stood up. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, but my voice came out calm and clear. You told me to work harder, to stop expecting handouts, to build character, while you pocketed $70,000 that was supposed to give me a fighting chance at life. Chairs scraped. Someone gasped, "Oh no." I didn't wait for explanations or apologies or more lies. I grabbed my coat and I walked out. Behind me, I heard Grandpa Richard calling my name, his voice breaking. In the parking lot, he caught up to me. He stood there looking older and more fragile than I'd ever seen him, and there were actual tears in his eyes. You never got it, he said softly. You never got any of it. I shook my head, my own tears finally spilling over. That's when he said the words that changed absolutely everything. I want to see where you live, Emma. I need to see it with my own eyes. And in that moment, the lie that had protected my father for 4 years finally ran out of places to hide. What would you have done if you were Grandpa Richard in that moment? Would you have believed me or demanded proof first? Drop a comment and let me know. Because what happened when he saw my basement changed everything forever. Emma, wait. Please. Grandpa Richard's voice cut through the parking lot. I turned around, and his smile was completely gone, replaced with pure heartbreak written all over his face. You seriously never got the apartment, he said again, like saying it out loud would somehow make it less true. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face now. I've been renting a windowless basement for 4 years, Grandpa. 4 years. There's a boiler right next to my bed that sounds like it's going to explode every night. The walls are stained yellow from cigarettes. The ceiling leaks when it rains. I eat dinner on the floor because I don't have a table. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. Your father told me you didn't want help. He said you wanted to prove you could do it alone, that you were proud of your independence. A bitter, broken laugh escaped my throat. I asked him for help once. One time. Just a job lead, just some advice. You know what he said? He told me to try flipping burgers first. Said it builds character. Ha ha ha, can you believe that? Character. Grandpa Richard's eyes dropped to the ground. He told me you were ungrateful. That you'd moved into your dream place and didn't even bother to thank him for helping make it happen. I didn't even know there was anything to thank him for, I whispered. How could I thank him for something I never received? The silence stretched between us like a canyon. Then he said, his voice firm, I want to fix this, Emma. I need to fix this. How? I asked, my arms wrapping around myself defensively. I want to see where you live. Right now. Take me there. That night, I drove him to my place. He didn't say a single word as I led him down the cracked concrete steps to the basement entrance. The light above it flickered on and off, on and off. When I unlocked the door, that smell hit us immediately, smoke and mildew and dampness and despair. Welcome to my palace, I said, my voice completely flat and dead. He stepped inside and just froze in the doorway. A sagging couch with springs poking through. Stained ceiling tiles with water damage. A tiny bed shoved up against the laundry machine that ran at random hours. The boiler looming in the corner like some kind of monster. He walked over to the bed and sat down on the edge of it, and then he let out this slow, broken breath that sounded like something inside him was dying. This is what you've been living in, he said. Since college ended. I nodded, unable to speak. Daniel, he said my father's name like a curse, told me he was saving the rest of the money for your wedding. That it was invested safely for your future. There is no rest, I said, my voice cracking. You gave him $70,000. Every penny disappeared the moment it hit his bank account. There was never any investment. There was never any plan for my future. There was just him, taking what was meant for me. Grandpa Richard stood up, and when he looked at me, I saw something I'd never seen in his eyes before. Pure, cold rage. Tomorrow morning, we're going to the bank. And then we're going to a lawyer. This ends now. The next day, the banker pulled up all the transfers on his computer screen. And there it was, clear as day. Grandpa Richard's money, marked specifically as a gift for my condo down payment. And then 5 days later, my dad transferring every single cent into an investment account under only his name. No note. No mention of me. Nothing. Grandpa Richard didn't yell. He didn't make a scene. He just asked for printed copies of everything, slid them carefully into a folder, and looked at me. This isn't family drama, Emma. This is theft. This is fraud. And he's going to pay back every penny, or I'm taking him to court. That afternoon, we drove straight to my parents' house. Dad opened the door looking half annoyed, until he saw Grandpa Richard standing next to me with that folder in his hands. We need to talk, Grandpa Richard said, his voice like steel. Now. Dad tried to laugh it off, that nervous laugh he does when he's cornered. Come on, Dad. You're blowing this way out of proportion. She's fine. She's always been fine. She's been living in a basement. Grandpa Richard cut him off, his voice sharp as a blade now. While you pocketed money that was meant to give her a start in life. While you lied to me. While you lied to her. While you destroyed her trust in this entire family. Mom appeared behind Dad, trembling. Jen watched from the stairs, her face pale as a ghost. Dad finally looked at me, really looked at me, but not like his daughter. Like a cornered animal. Like someone who knew the game was finally over. Because what Grandpa Richard did next wasn't just an argument. It was a verdict. A reckoning. Justice finally arriving 4 years too late. Stay with me because what happened next gave me my life back in ways I never imagined possible. I didn't move into a mansion or anything like that. I moved into a small, modest apartment with real windows. Actual windows that let in natural light. The first morning I woke up there, sunlight was already streaming across the floor before I even opened my eyes. No boiler rattling. No damp walls. No cigarette smell embedded into everything I owned. No mildew. No flickering lights. No fear. I sat on the edge of my bed and just listened to the quiet, not the heavy, suffocating silence of being ignored and invisible. The clean kind. The peaceful kind. The kind that lets you actually breathe for the first time in years. Grandpa Richard checked in every single day at first. Not to control me or monitor me, just to ask simple things. Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping okay? Do you need anything? Is the apartment working out? He didn't try to fix me like I was broken. He just stayed. He just showed up. He just cared. My father paid the money back exactly as he'd been ordered to. $70,000 over 6 months. On paper, at least, the debt was settled. We didn't talk much after everything came out. Some apologies never leave the page. And you know what? That's okay. That's actually okay. What surprised me the most was how little anger I carried forward once the truth was spoken out loud. Once everything was exposed to the light, it lost its grip on me. It stopped haunting me every single day. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need him to suffer. I needed distance. I needed space to heal. I needed to stop explaining myself to people who never actually listened in the first place. I stopped shrinking myself to fit into rooms that didn't want me there. I stopped apologizing for taking up space. I stopped believing that suffering in silence was somehow noble or strong. I learned something incredibly important through all of this. I wasn't loved the wrong way. I was treated the wrong way. And that difference, that distinction, it matters more than anything. Tell me in the comments. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. Now my life is quieter. Maybe smaller from the outside looking in. But it's mine. Completely, entirely, beautifully mine. And for the first time in my entire adult life, I don't feel like I'm living in someone else's shadow. I don't feel like I'm performing a role someone else wrote for me. I don't feel invisible anymore. I feel grounded. I feel safe. I feel at peace. Oh, finally at peace. Because walking away from people who hurt you isn't the end of your story. It isn't giving up. It isn't failure. It's the moment you finally choose yourself. It's the moment you decide your peace matters more than their comfort. It's the moment you realize you deserve better, and then you actually go out and find it. I rebuilt my life from nothing. I learned to trust again. I learned that real family doesn't lie to you. Real family doesn't steal from you. Real family shows up when you need them most. Grandpa Richard gave me more than an apartment. He gave me back my faith that someone in this world actually cared whether I was okay or not. He gave me back my voice. He gave me back myself. So if you're living in your own basement right now, literal or metaphorical, if you're being told you're not trying hard enough while someone else profits from your struggle, if you're invisible in your own family, please hear me. Your silence is protecting someone else's lies. Your pain is making someone else comfortable. And you deserve so much more than that. Speaking up might shatter everything. It might burn bridges you thought were permanent. It might cost you relationships you've had your entire life. But staying silent will cost you yourself. And you're too valuable to lose. If this story resonated with you, if it felt familiar in your bones, if it reminded you of your own struggle, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories about quiet strength and choosing yourself over and over again until it becomes natural. More stories of survival, of truth, of finally choosing yourself are coming. Thank you for listening to mine. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me when my own family couldn't. From wherever you are in this world, from whatever basement you're climbing out of, I see you. Your story matters. Your truth matters. You matter. And you are absolutely not alone.